G'day! In today's video we're going to learn how to make the cross stitch cowl. This is a beginner's project and the cowl could be made long like this one. This one has been doubled over, or you can also adjust the sizing very easily and make it a short one. The example that you see here is made using one strand of yarn, but if you want your project to be nice and thick and a very quick project, you can use 2 strands of yarn. This example is using 2 strands of yarn, and this is quite a long scarf, so it will be doubled up when I wear it, but it is very easy to adjust the length of your scarf. It all goes on by the length of the chain that we make. I have doubled over the scarf and put the twist at the back, but you can also wear it with the twist at the front. So depending on whether you want your scarf long or short, there are very many different ways that we can make this project. So let's get started on the lesson. So for our supplies, we're going to need some yarn of your choice. I'm using worsted weight. You can use 8-ply or double knit. You can use basically any yarn that you like. You'll need a crochet hook to go with your yarn. I'm using a 5.5mm hook, and this hook was really kindly donated to me by Moon Shadow Threads. I will put a link below so you can go and grab your cute little hook. And I love these hooks, they're really nice to use too. And I'm not just saying that, I really do like them. They're very well weighted, it's not heavy, and they're beautiful to use, and you don't get cramps by using the big handle. You're going to need a sewing needle with a big eye, a pair of scissors. Oh, these are getting rusty, I need to buy some new ones, but they're still sharp. Pair of scissors, and a tape measure if you've got one handy. If you don't, you can just judge it by putting the chain when we make it around your neck, so that's all good. So let's get started. So first of all, grabbing your yarn, we are going to make a slip knot. Plenty of different ways to do the slip knot, so do them the way that you do them. I probably do mine the hardest way, but that's fine, works for me. So I would recommend a yarn that is plain like this. It can be variegated and everything, but I wouldn't recommend fluffy yarn because I find it really hard to work with because you can't see the stitches. If you're going to work with fluffy yarn, maybe use 1 strand of plain and 1 strand of fluffy, and that will help you see your stitches a lot better. So what we need to do is we need to make a chain. You could also use a foundation double crochet stitch, that would work as well. But this one is going to be an easy one, so I'm going to teach you the easy way. So we're just going to make a chain and then we're going to double crochet back across. If you're a beginner, we don't want to jump into the heavy stuff quite yet. But if you know how to do your foundation row with the foundation double crochet, you're more than welcome. So we're going to chain along, and grabbing your tape measure, I'm going to make this 50 inches. I'm going to make my chain 50 inches long. Now I am a smaller frame. I am an Australian size 10, which I think is about a 6 or so in the US. Not like the really super skinny size, but I'm about 2 sizes up from that. So where's our 50-inch mark? You're going to make your chain about 50 inches or about 127 centimeters. So if you want to make yours longer, I would suggest making 55 inches. And if you want it really long, I would suggest 60 inches. So 55 inches is about 140 centimeters and 60 inches is 152. So by making it the 50 inch, that wraps around twice on me. So chain along until you have 50 inches. I almost forgot to mention that in one of the scarves that I made, I actually used 2 strands at a time. So you could use this project using 2 strands. And of course you would use a bigger hook than what's recommended for one of the strands of yarn because you've got 2 strands. So you can do that too. That would make a very, very quick project because it will work up pretty much almost twice as fast because you've got 2 strands of yarn. It's making it nice and thick. So to use 2 strands of yarn, you just hold them together. They will twist around each other as they are pulling out together, but that is perfectly fine. That is perfectly normal. So sorry about that, guys, I just forgot to tell you that part. So keep chaining until you have your length that you desire. So once you have your chain, you're going to have a whole heap of chains, and then we are going to double crochet back across our chain. Now this scarf is like a circle, but we're going to cheat because if you've seen my videos before, we do everything the cheat way or the easy way. So if you're just beginning, if I asked you to join your chain without twisting it, trust me, it's not hard to do, but it can be tricky. And sometimes you get all the way to the end of the row and you find out your chain is twisted. And that is really, really frustrating. And I've done it so many times, so I decided to make them differently. We join them after we've done the first row of double crochet. Haha. And no one will ever know you did this, by the way. So what we're going to do is we are going to double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. Now if you want to use a different stitch for this project, go right ahead, because this first row is the base pattern for any scarf of this design, like the circle scarf. I don't know what you call it. What do you call it? Infinity scarf? Because it continues a big circle, yeah. So you could use any stitch you like and just make it all the one stitch. You don't have to do the design that I'm going to do. So you could double crochet back across and just use double crochet throughout the whole thing. As you can see from the beginning design, at the beginning of the video, I used a cross stitch, which isn't hard. It is very easy to do. So like I said, you can use any stitch you like. So this is basically the setup row for any of those patterns that you want to do. Experiment a little, you'll be surprised. So 4th chain from the hook. We never count the one that's on the hook because we just don't. I don't know why, but we just don't. We need to count 4 chains. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. We are going to double crochet. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to double crochet. So go into that stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop. You've got 3. Yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. I'm going to show you that once more. So it's yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Now if you don't know how to do that double crochet, just rewind that little bit and practice. And what we're going to do is go all the way across with the double crochet. Now if you've done your foundation double crochet, you won't need to do this row, of course, because you've already got yours done. So you can just watch along with this bit and then continue on with the next row. So we're going to go into each chain and double crochet, and that's all we're going to do for this row. We're just going to whiz along, going into each chain and making a double crochet. So continue on, work your way across all the way to the other end, and I will meet up with you then. Once we have all our stitches done, we are going to join the 2 pieces to make it a continuous circle. So what you want to do is fold your work in half, making sure that it does not twist. If you twist your work, it will become a Mobius scarf, and it will have the permanent twist in it. So you could do it like that if you like also, but I am just showing you the version where it's all flat and it's not twisted at all. So putting your work back on your hook, and because I like to cheat, this is why I work it like this, because we're going to join our work together and then we're just going to stitch that together at the bottom, and it looks like we've worked a continuous circle when we haven't put in the hard work. So we're going into the top of the first chain there, going through both loops, and then yarning over, pulling through for a slip stitch, and we can sew that in and join that together later. So now we've now joined our work because that will be stitched down and joined there. And we're going to work the first row of our cross stitch. Now I'm just grabbing my sample I have here. This is the one I use with the 2 strands. We have one row of double crochet, and the next row is with a cross stitch. So we're going to work our cross stitch row. So we're going to chain up 3. That counts as our first double crochet. And with our cross stitch, we actually work backwards for 1 stitch to make it cross over. So what we need to do is work into the stitch that is here. So normally we'd go this way, but we're actually going to work back 1 stitch. So yarn over, go back to the previous stitch under both loops, and work a double crochet. So you're working the double crochet as normal after you've gone into that stitch back there. We're going to skip 1 stitch and double crochet into the next. So skip that one, go into this one. Then we're going to cross back to make our cross stitch. So yarning over, working a double crochet in the stitch before the one we just did. We just worked there. We're going to work into the skipped stitch. Work a double crochet. We've just created our cross stitch. So skip stitch down the bottom, go into the next one, the double crochet. The whole project is worked in double crochet. Going back to the one we just skipped for a double crochet. We've worked another cross stitch. We are going to continue all the way around, so skipping the next one, going into the next stitch, going back to the one that we just skipped, and repeat this all the way around until we get back to the beginning of our row, which is here. I'm coming up to the end of my row, so I need to just work my last cross stitch. And then we're going to join this row together. We're going to get the first chain and we're going to join in the top of the first chain. Going under both loops. And then join with a slip stitch. You can sew this piece in whenever you want to. I'm going to do it at the end. So our next row, if you want to do it the same as this one, is another row of cross stitch. We've got double crochet normal, a 2-row cross stitch, and then a double crochet normal, and then the double crochet cross stitch again. 1, 2, and then 1 row of double crochet. So you could mix it up however you like. You could do 1 row of normal, 1 cross stitch, 1 normal. I've done 1 normal, 2 cross stitch, 1 normal. So you could do it, you know, more rows of double crochet, more rows of cross stitch, whatever you like. So to do another row of cross stitch, what we need to do is we must remember to slip stitch across, because if we start our cross stitch here, the cross stitch is going to be between this one and this stitch here, and we don't want that. We want it to be in both of the cross stitches, So see how the cross stitch is made up of 2 stitches? We want our cross stitch coming out the top of those 2 stitches. If we work a chain 3 and cross stitch back to here, it's coming out of one off that stitch and then one off that cross stitch. We don't want that. So we need to slip stitch across. So going into the next stitch, because we want to start on this side, we're going to work a slip stitch, then a chain 3, and by doing that, when you cross back, you're crossing to the other stitch of the cross stitch, which is down here. So going into the top of the stitch that is before, oops, working a double crochet. And now the cross stitch is coming out of the top of that cross stitch, and that's what we want. So going across to the next cross stitch, which is here, these 2 stitches, skipping one, going into the next stitch. So when you're working your cross stitch, you want to do the first stitch into the left side of the cross stitch below. So working back across, so we're crossing back, skipping a stitch, working onto the next one, and then crossing back and working your double crochet. So you work your cross stitch all the way around again until you get back to the other side, end of the row, and then we slip stitch to join, but I will catch up to you when we are ready to do the next part. We're ready to join, so we're skipping a stitch, going into the next one, work our double crochet, and then double crochet back into the stitch that we just skipped. And I will join you when we are ready to join on this side here. So we need to join our row again, exactly like we did in the row below, with a slip stitch. And now you can do as many rows of the cross stitch that you like, but I'm going to show you how to do a double crochet row now. So you're just going to chain up 3, and then in the tops of the stitches where we were going to do our cross stitch, we're just going to do a double crochet like a normal one. So just into the next stitch, double crochet, and each stitch cross. So we don't cross our stitches anymore, we just double crochet like normal. And that's all we do. We just work a double crochet, and we work it the whole way around our project until we get back to the beginning of our row, and we just join into the top of the double crochet again like we did on the 2 previous rows. So that's pretty much the pattern for the cow. That was the dog shaking his head. And what I did for my other one that I did with the 2 strands, we had a plain row, 2 rows of cross stitch, a plain row, 2 rows of cross stitch, and a plain row, and that's all I did. But I think for this one I may need to do another repeat of the rows because it's not going to be as wide because I've only used the 1 strand of yarn. But I might see how it looks and then like have a skinnier scarf. The other one's quite wide. The other one's about 10 inches or 20 centimeters wide, so I might use this one and use it as a skinny version. We'll see. I'll see what it looks like when I put it on. So like I said, continue around with double crochet and then repeat your cross stitch rows and then another row of double crochet, and you join exactly the same way. And don't forget, when you're doing your cross rows, you do have to slip stitch across to start in that second part of the cross stitch. So I hope you enjoyed that. I will catch up with you very soon when I've finished my few rows that I have to do. So I'm just up to my last double crochet stitch, and then we're going to join to the beginning stitch. And you can do as many rows of double crochet as you like, but if you would like to do another row of the cross stitch, what we need to do is slip stitch across like we did on the cross stitch rows. Because when we start our cross stitch, we want it to be lined up with the other cross stitches that are here. So we're going to slip stitch across. If we are working a cross stitch row, we're going to chain 3, and then we are going to work our cross stitch back over to the previous stitch. We're going to skip a stitch, work into the next stitch, and then go back to complete our cross stitch. Then you're going to work your cross stitch all the way around and join. And you can mix up the cross stitch and the double crochet rows as much as you like. What I have done for my scarf is 1 row of double crochet, 2 rows of cross stitch, 1 row of double crochet, and then 2 rows of cross stitch, and then finished off with a row of double crochet. So you can mix this up as much as you like, and I will see you in a few more rows to show you what I've completed. So what I've completed is 1 normal, 2 cross, 1 normal, 2 cross, and 1 normal row of double crochet. And when we get to the end, we are just going to make a slip stitch and pull our yarn through. We'll chain 1. I've already cut my yarn off, and then we're going to pull through. Then we are going to find our sewing needle, and we're going to fix up the gap that we have here. So what we're going to do is find the bottom of the chain here, and we're going to go through that with our sewing needle, and our gap closes up. As simple as that. And for this one, I'm actually going to go back through the loop, and that makes a knot just to secure that in there. I don't normally do knots, but we want to secure that down so that it's not going to come undone. And you can't even tell that you joined it, can you really? Once you're wearing it, you're not going to be noticing it at all. So we're just going to sew our yarn. We're going to weave it in. You can weave it in anywhere. I'm just going under the double crochet stitches there. Pull that out so that it's nice and hidden, and then we're going to do the same for this one. I'm going to go to the back of my work, thread that down through my chain stitch there, then I'm just going to thread underneath the double crochets. As many as I can get. And then I will trim that off. My scissors have disappeared, so I'll do that after. And that's the end of our lesson for today. So thank you so much for watching my video. Please share your creations on our Facebook page or our Ravelry page. We've also got Google+. And don't forget to subscribe as well, because there's plenty more videos coming up and you don't want to miss out on a video. And until next time, thanks for watching and happy crochet!